Visit parthakachana.com for technology resources and stock analysis. 50 intermediate-level design patterns interview questions. 1. What is the difference between a design pattern and an anti-pattern? Answer. A design pattern is a proven solution to a common design problem, while an anti-pattern is a bad practice or solution that can lead to negative consequences. 2. How do design patterns relate to solid principles? Answer. Design patterns often align with solid principles such as single responsibility, open-closed, Liskov substitution, interface segregation, and dependency inversion. 3. What are some common design patterns that violate solid principles? Answer. Overuse of inheritance, God objects, and cyclic dependencies can violate solid principles. 4. Explain the lazy initialization pattern. Answer. Lazy initialization creates an object only when it's needed, improving performance in scenarios where the object is rarely used. 5. How does the dependency injection pattern relate to the factory pattern? Answer. Dependency injection can be implemented using the factory pattern to create and inject dependencies into objects. 6. What is the difference between the abstract factory and builder patterns? Answer. The abstract factory pattern creates families of related objects, while the builder pattern constructs complex objects step by step. 7. Explain the composite pattern in the context of a file system. Answer. In a file system, the composite pattern can represent files and directories as objects, allowing you to treat them uniformly. 8. How does the decorator pattern differ from the adapter pattern? Answer. The decorator pattern adds new responsibilities to objects dynamically, while the adapter pattern converts an existing interface to a different one. 9. What is the difference between the bridge and facade patterns? Answer. The bridge pattern decouples an abstraction from its implementation, while the facade pattern provides a simplified interface to a complex subsystem. 10. Explain the state pattern in the context of a finite state machine. Answer. The state pattern can be used to implement a finite state machine, where the behavior of an object changes based on its current state. 11. How does the strategy pattern relate to the template method pattern? Answer. Both patterns allow you to define different algorithms, but the strategy pattern makes them interchangeable at runtime, while the template method pattern defines a skeleton of an algorithm. 12. What is the difference between the observer and mediator patterns? Answer. The observer pattern defines a one-to-many dependency, while the mediator pattern defines a many-to-many dependency between objects. 13. You're designing a system to manage user preferences. How would you use design patterns to make it flexible and extensible? Answer. Consider using the strategy pattern for different preference storage mechanisms, e.g., database, file, cloud, the observer pattern to notify components when preferences change, and the composite pattern to represent hierarchical preference structures. 14. How would you implement a plugin system for a content management system, CMS, using design patterns? Answer. Use the abstract factory pattern to create families of plugin-specific objects, the composite pattern to represent plugin hierarchies, and the strategy pattern for different plugin behaviors. 15. You need to create a system that can handle different types of notifications, e.g., email, SMS, push notifications. Which design patterns would be suitable? Answer. Consider using the factory pattern to create different notification types, the strategy pattern for different notification channels, and the observer pattern to notify subscribers. 16. How would you implement a caching system that can be easily extended with different caching strategies? Answer. Use the strategy pattern to encapsulate different caching algorithms, e.g., LRU, FIFO, and make them interchangeable. 17. You're designing a system to manage user sessions. How would you use design patterns to ensure security and scalability? Answer. Consider using the singleton pattern for session management, the observer pattern to track session activity, and the proxy pattern for security checks. 18. What is the Hollywood principle? Answer. The Hollywood principle states that don't call us, we'll call you. It encourages loose coupling and inversion of control. 19. How can design patterns help improve code testability? Answer. Design patterns can improve code testability by promoting loose coupling, modularity, and dependency injection. 20. What are some common anti-patterns related to the singleton pattern? Answer. Overuse, global state, and difficulty in testing can be anti-patterns related to the singleton pattern. 21. How can design patterns help with code refactoring? Answer. Design patterns can provide a structured approach to refactoring code, making it easier to identify and apply appropriate changes. 22. What is the difference between the decorator and facade patterns? Answer. The decorator pattern adds new responsibilities to objects dynamically, while the facade pattern provides a simplified interface to a complex subsystem. 23. How can design patterns help with code maintainability? Answer. Design patterns can improve code maintainability by promoting modularity, reusability, and consistency. 24. What is the difference between the state and strategy patterns? Answer. The state pattern allows an object to alter its behavior based on its internal state, while the strategy pattern allows an object to change its algorithm at runtime. 25. How can design patterns help with code performance? Answer. While design patterns don't inherently improve performance, they can help you write more efficient code by avoiding unnecessary complexity and promoting good practices. 26. You're building a real-time chat application. How would you use design patterns to handle scalability and concurrency? Answer. Consider using the observer pattern for real-time updates, the mediator pattern to manage communication between clients and servers, and the factory pattern to create different types of messages. 27. How would you implement a data validation framework using design patterns? Answer. Use the strategy pattern for different validation rules, the composite pattern for complex validation chains, and the observer pattern to notify components when validation errors occur. 28. How would you design a system to handle asynchronous tasks and events using design patterns? Answer. Use the observer pattern to notify components when events occur, the command pattern to encapsulate asynchronous tasks, and the thread pool executor pattern to manage a pool of threads for executing tasks. 29. How would you implement a job scheduling system using design patterns? Answer. Use the command pattern to represent jobs, the queue pattern to manage job queues, and the observer pattern to notify clients when jobs are completed. 30. How would you implement a dependency injection framework using design patterns? Answer. Use the factory pattern to create dependencies, the abstract factory pattern to create families of dependencies, and the dependency injection pattern to inject dependencies into objects. 31. What is the difference between the adapter and decorator patterns? Answer. The adapter pattern changes the interface of an existing object, while the decorator pattern adds new functionality to an object without changing its interface. 32. Can you explain the concept of inversion of control? Answer. Inversion of control, IOC, is a programming principle where the flow of control is inverted. Instead of the object controlling its dependencies, the dependencies are injected into the object. 33. What are some common design patterns used in mobile app development? Answer. Some common design patterns used in mobile app development include MVC, MVVM, singleton, observer, factory, and mediator. 34. How would you implement a content moderation system using design patterns? Answer. Use the strategy pattern for different moderation rules, the chain of responsibility pattern to handle moderation workflows, and the observer pattern to notify users of moderation decisions. 35. What are some best practices for using design patterns effectively? Answer. Some best practices include understanding the underlying principles, using them judiciously, considering alternatives, adapting to your specific context, avoiding premature optimization, and testing your code thoroughly. 36. What is the difference between a design pattern and a framework? Answer. A design pattern is a reusable solution to a common design problem, while a framework is a reusable software component that provides a structure for applications. Frameworks often incorporate design patterns. 37. You're designing a system to manage user subscriptions. How would you use design patterns to ensure flexibility and scalability? Answer. Consider using the strategy pattern for different subscription plans, the composite pattern to represent subscription bundles, and the observer pattern to notify users of subscription changes. 38. What is the difference between the composite and decorator patterns? Answer. The composite pattern treats groups of objects uniformly, while the decorator pattern adds new responsibilities to objects dynamically. 39. Explain the object pool pattern. Answer. The object pool pattern creates a pool of reusable objects to avoid the overhead of creating and destroying objects repeatedly. 40. How does the prototype pattern relate to the factory pattern? Answer. The prototype pattern can be used in conjunction with the factory pattern to create different types of objects based on a prototype. 41. What is the difference between the adapter and bridge patterns? Answer. The adapter pattern changes the interface of an existing object, while the bridge pattern decouples an abstraction from its implementation. 42. Explain the flyweight pattern in the context of a graphics library. Answer. The flyweight pattern can be used to share common graphical objects, such as fonts or colors, to reduce memory usage. 43. What is the difference between the chain of responsibility and mediator patterns? Answer. The chain of responsibility pattern passes a request along a chain of handlers, while the mediator pattern encapsulates how a set of objects interact. 44. Explain the visitor pattern in the context of a compiler. Answer. The visitor pattern can be used to define operations to be performed on a hierarchy of objects without modifying the objects themselves. 45. How would you implement a recommendation system using design patterns? Answer. Use the strategy pattern for different recommendation algorithms, the composite pattern to represent user preferences and item attributes, and the observer pattern to update recommendations based on user behavior. 46. You're designing a system to handle real-time data processing. How would you use design patterns to ensure scalability and performance? Answer. To design a scalable and performant system for real-time data processing, consider the following design patterns. Observer pattern. Notify components of data changes in real time, allowing for immediate updates and responses. Mediator pattern. Centralize communication between components, reducing coupling and improving scalability. Flyweight pattern. Share common data objects to reduce memory usage and improve performance. Chain of responsibility pattern. Create a chain of handlers to process data efficiently, allowing for flexibility and extensibility. Strategy pattern. Encapsulate different data processing algorithms, making it easy to switch between strategies based on performance requirements or data characteristics. 47. How would you implement a real-time chat application using design patterns? Answer. Consider using the observer pattern for real-time updates, the mediator pattern to manage communication between clients and servers, and the factory pattern to create different types of messages. 48. You're designing a system to handle distributed caching. How would you use design patterns to ensure consistency and performance? Answer. Consider using the proxy pattern to implement a distributed cache layer, the strategy pattern for different caching algorithms, and the observer pattern to invalidate cache entries. 49. How would you implement a system to handle version control and branching using design patterns? Answer. Use the composite pattern to represent a file system hierarchy, the strategy pattern for different branching strategies, and the observer pattern to notify users of changes. 50. You're designing a system to manage user authentication and authorization. How would you use design patterns to ensure security and flexibility? Answer. Consider using the strategy pattern for different authentication methods, e.g., username, password, OAuth, the decorator pattern to add security features, e.g., encryption, authorization, and the composite pattern to represent user roles and permissions. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Visit parthakachana.com for technology resources and stock analysis.